I'll give you a crazy pattern that I've basically been deciphering probably over the last year or two. And it has to do with how Central America and South America is taking a new form. So if you look at World War One and World War Two, prior to that, we had the Spanish flu, right? And so we have a Spanish flu, we have a swap of currency because we have the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 get introduced, and we have two world wars. And then we have basically this fight against what? Communism, right? We had the fight against drugs, the fight against terror, but back then it was the fight against communism. So what happened? We saw a massive overthrow in South America and the installment of right-wing dictators and right-wing governments like we're seeing now. But the question is why? Now, when you begin to look at how the IMF works, which is the International Monetary Fund, they are what the economic hitman, a book that I read, he used to be one of these jackals for the IMF that would go and do broker deals with governments, loan them money in exchange for what? Resources and assets and collateralized land and things of this nature. So what would take place? A disaster would roll around, natural disaster or planned disaster, either one. Natural coup or planned coup, either one. Point is, something would take place where the government would need money or resources. The IMF would come in and say, hey, here's a relief package. But attached to the relief package, you have stipulation A, B, C, D, massive interest. And obviously, the IMF can never default. They can never default. So what do they have to do? They have to overthrow. So what you do is you take a country into a massive pattern of debt. You can see it in Argentina with left-wing governments taking and basically stealing everything for about 50 years. The country now is in massive debt. And now you have within, 30 days, a right-wing government installed, all the deficits removed, right? So all the debt instantly removed so that now you can pay back to the IMF the debt. So you're seeing a cycle, a 100-year loop cycle of these big entities that control money and money supply coming into disaster and offering relief, quote unquote. And through that relief, being able to nationalize and control a country, which is crazy. So now you're going to see through South America, pretty much all the countries adopt a right-wing perspective, which initially might become benevolent. It'll be a good kind of transition, but eventually you're going to see a big clasp down of right-wing push to pay off any sort of debts and to nationalize assets. It's taking place. That's why you see the selling off in Argentina, for example, of the Argentine Airlines, which was a nationalized asset, or the YPF, which is the gas station that belonged to the government. They're selling all these things to private companies, which is fine. But the point is, these are different patterns that when you begin to realize, you can identify. So now Argentina is a great investment opportunity because they're about to be in surplus. They're about to start making money again. Is it risky? Yeah, but is it a 10-year play, 20-year play? For sure. So you'll be seeing me buy some land in Patagonia and get a ranch. Maybe not like you up in Scotland, but that's the perspective, bro.
Everything's a risk.
Yeah, everything's a risk. So different pattern recognitions. You can talk about Elon Musk, how he's building an alternative system. So you have the social media communication platform X. You have the banking solution, which will now be integrated on X. You have the satellites. You have Neuralink. You have Tesla. The guy has all the data to basically build an alternative system, which is what he's doing. An alternative system to what? To the government system. So you have power charging, which is controlled by Elon. You have the communication, which is controlled by Elon. You have the internet, Starlink, which is controlled by Elon. You have the spaceships. You have Neuralink, which is going to be the implant. You have, I think it's Gronk, which is the AI. So all these things together collectively put you into a supervillain situation or a Lex Luthor type character for an alternative system. So we'll be seeing a fusion or a complete anarchic separatist kind of perspective between government and private industry. Now they collude a lot, right? Now they collude a lot, which is what we call techno-feudalism. When basically Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or any of these social media guys, they operate as like hidden kings and hidden like monarchs because they control the social platforms. So it's what we call technocratic state and what we call techno-feudalism. Feudalism, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it was so feudalism back in the day was when a king would own a lot of land and the peasants would come and they would work on the land for free in exchange for food. But the feudal lords own the property. So they own the place of commerce. Therefore, even though they weren't the government, they were still in control. Today we have the same thing taking place, but it's technologically, like you could literally censor somebody to death, right? Until we had these alternative systems come into be. So we see the collusion of government and we see the collusion of corporations take place. I don't know, is it, as if technology advances, if we kind of go more towards just relying on companies instead of just relying on government, or if these things marry into one super monster that with AI kind of fucks us all up. We'll see, but the best we can do is level up
Prepare yourself.
and prepare yourself.